You're watching Initiative Africa. My name is Asha Sampath. Welcome to your weekly magazine featuring Africa on the move through smart innovations and initiatives that work. Today we'll look at how agriculture and beekeeping coexist in the Congo, and we revisit the legacy of the great Nigerian musician Fela Kuti through our guest's eyes. Well, it's time for Initiative Africa. Let's get on with the show with our top stories today. He started out wearing ties and selling beauty creams in his native Nigeria. Then he met his destiny through a great musician, the creator of Afrobeat, Fela Kuti. Babinyori Kayode Idowu became a fellow companion of Fela in music and also in his struggle. A privileged witness of the famous shrine era, the famous club in Lagos and the House of Kuti, the Kalakuta Republic, which he frequented so much in the 70s. Here's our guest today.
I discovered that Fela Shrine was like the place to be. You learn a lot of things. Contrary to what the government want us to believe, that the shrine was a place to just go and smoke.
Beekeeping, a source of economic and therapeutic benefits despite the difficult cohabitation of farmers and bees in the Congo Basin.
So if people of Ludima think we made the bees flee Point Noir to come here so that we can kill them and prevent them from pollinating their fields, it's absolutely absurd. It's more a problem of hate and jealousy.
Singing Africa and telling its story is the dream of Breton guitarist and arranger Yohann Le Ferrand and several artists from the west of the continent. A great initiative showing a new face of the daily life in the Sahel.
And it's true that in Mali, we're blessed, and especially with people like Tina or Candy. There you go. That's great.
Can beekeeping contribute to preserving the Congo Basin forests without creating tensions? Despite their many ecological services and undeniable economic potential, bees are far from being unanimously supported in the countryside. Faced with the hostility of farmers worried about the nuisance that beehives can represent, beekeepers are trying to convince residents to give this sector, which guarantees the preservation of the forest, a chance. Our correspondent Jean-David Miamle went to a beekeeping site to understand what is at stake. Take a look.
The Congo Basin rainforest faces growing threats from overexploitation. One of the ways to preserve this natural heritage that has emerged in the region is beekeeping, seen by many as economic and environmentally effective alternative. However, the cohabitation between beekeepers and the farmers can be challenging, as Albertine Zawang, a beekeeper, testifies.
During the dry season, some people work in the fields and set fires to clear the land. Sometimes the fire reaches our sites, and it can be quite damaging.
Alain Mvoiti, a beekeeper from Point Noir, has to deal with rumors from the villagers about his activity. The farmers are convinced that the beekeepers want to take over their land.
So if people of Ludima think we made the bees flee Point Noir to come here so that we can kill them and prevent them from pollinating their fields, it's absolutely absurd. It's more a problem of hate and jealousy.
The farmers, conversely, deny any bad intentions. They want to work in peace. This is difficult with very aggressive bees. An African bee known as Apis mellifera andersoni
Living
with beekeepers can be challenging because they have the right equipment to protect themselves against bee stings, but we don't. It's difficult to work in the fields in these conditions, and that's why some farmers prefer to set fire to scare the bees away.
Beekeepers are stepping up awareness campaigns to show the benefits of their activities. The message is getting through to farmers who appreciate the approach.
Awareness campaigns are set up. Thanks to this, I understood that bees play an important role in the production of my agricultural products. But only some people are putting into practice what they learned during the awareness campaigns. Some farmers still use fire to chase away the bees. Beekeepers should continue with the awareness raising, as this could be beneficial for both sides.
Bees are considered pollinators by excellence. By pollinating 1/3 of all plants, they play an essential role in food security. Bees are also sentinels, as their health is an indicator of the quality of the environment.
Without bees, there is no forest, no food. We won't be talking about manioc in 4 years. We would have disappeared like flies. And it's true, I can tell you.
Beekeeping also represents hope of a real alternative to the artisanal exploitation of the forest. Thanks to the income generated by the sale of honey and products derived from the hives, such as royal jelly, wax, and propolis, this sector can become a real asset to promote development and also in the fight against poverty. This is the opinion of Senator Justin Goma, promoter of the largest beekeeping cooperative in the Congo, Yadi, with about 50 members for 2.3 tons of honey produced last year.
You know, a barrel of oil has a capacity of 159 liters, and if you sell a barrel, you can earn 100,000 CFA francs per barrel. That's the highest price today. But if you put 159 liters of honey in a barrel and sell it at the lowest price of 5,000 CFA francs per liter, do you know what that means? It's 7 times or 8 times more than a barrel of oil.
Beyond its contribution to the preservation of the forest and its socio-economic impact, beekeeping can contribute to improving people's health, according to Herbert Yompang, a beekeeper in Bertoir.
All the 6 hive products are medicines, starting with honey, which has 70% medicine and 30% food only. We have propolis, an antibiotic, antiviral, antifungal, and so on. We have pollen, which increases memory capacity tenfold. We have the great royal jelly, which strengthens the body's defenses.
Throughout Africa, the beekeeping sector is thriving both in production and export volumes, as well as innovative techniques. Even if beekeeping remains a secondary activity in the Congo Basin rainforest, honey production could eradicate poverty among farmers while creating jobs and providing a significant additional income.
Let's now turn to our guest, Mabinyori Kayode Idowu. He saw the birth of Afrobeat, which is a blend of jazz, funk, and traditional African music. But he also cherished a special bond with its Nigerian creator, Fela Kuti, who died in the 90s. He was co-curator of an exhibition dedicated to the famous musician in Paris recently. Behind the story of Fela, a unique artist, Mabinyori Kayode Idowu puts the spotlight on a period when Africa was struggling against colonialism and corruption. He explained to Laurent Soustras why bringing this heritage of pure, undiluted Afrobeat is crucial to the younger generation. Mabinyori Kayode Idowu, hello and welcome to Initiative Africa. We are on the site of this exhibition dedicated to Fela Kuti, of which you are the co-curator. How did the idea for this exhibition come about?
My 2 other colleagues, because there's Alex and also Mathilde. Alex works with the Philharmonie, and I think the idea came to them to do an exposition on Fela. So they were like looking all over the place for people who could really give a narrative of who Fela was, what his struggle was about. And it took them almost a year. I live just 5 minutes away from the Philharmonic. But you know, like all the ups and downs of society, a lot of people claim to know Fela, but they don't know so much. They were putting themselves forward. But my two other curators, they insisted. They say, in every document we come across the name of ID relating to Fela. We need somebody that can really give us a clear picture of what Fela's struggle was about, who he was, and that was how the idea came up. They got in touch with me, and we started to work. We worked for about 3 years to prepare the exposition.
This is not a coincidence because you were a companion of Fela Kuti from the beginning. What's your impression?
I think my first impression of Fela, this was like the period where I just finished my high school and I wanted to go study philosophy at the university. And then the first impression I had when I saw Fela was like, this little man confronting government, there must be something behind it. And I had the opportunity to have an answer to my curiosity because thanks to two of my friends who presented me with Fela, and we got talking with Fela about life, about relationship between older generation and younger generation.
He must have been very instrumental in this journey of shaping your own philosophy.
Exactly. At this time, I was working as a sales representative of a cosmetic company, a division of the United African Company, UAC. I was a sales representative of this company. I was earning like £19 a month, you know, which for a young man of my age, I mean, it was big money. It gave me, I wasn't paying rent. I was living with an uncle. You know, all this kind of gave me this liberty to go to the shrine regularly because I discovered that Fela Shrine was like the place to be. You learn a lot of things. I mean, contrary to what the government want us to believe that the shrine was a place to just go and smoke. Here I was learning philosophy in the true sense of the word. And it changed my life. It gave me historic consciousness to know who I am, from where I'm coming from. And that was how I committed myself at that time to this Fela's movement. I got sacked because I refused to put on a tie to go to work. And Fela absorbed me as one of the leaders of his youth movement called Young African Pioneers.
What did you particularly want to show in this exhibition?
Thanks to our collaboration with my two other curators, the idea was to present Fela in the true sense of himself, not in a chronological manner, but everything that influenced Fela, that created the phenomenon called Fela Kuti. And that's why, if you remember at the beginning of this conversation, I told you Fela was like an answer to the question of colonialism in Africa. It was not just an answer, it was the personified answer to colonialism. And he used his music to mobilize people like me. We got convinced because I was like going regularly to his shrine where he was criticizing corruption and all that. So through this exposition, because today the younger generation don't know about Fela. The younger generation today they are listening to the adulterated version of Fela's music called Afrobeats, even if it's not chronological manner, but through the exposition, people can see Fela through his struggle. People can see Fela through his mother. Because you see, in 1947, Fela's mother mobilized between 9,000 and 12,000 women to fight against the colonial system that was imposing taxes. People did not know this. And in 1947, Fela's mother was saying that African women, there was no vacuum of power in Africa. So through this exposition, we are able to bring all this to show that African society is not the patriarchal society that it is today. African society before colonialism gave equality to men and women.
Welcome to the second part of our show. Fulani flute, brass instruments, gospel choirs, Tuareg violins and guitars. In other words, a dazzling musical conversation that Johan Le Ferrand, a Breton musician, and numerous West African artists have started in Bamako and brought back to Paris. From his collaboration with 6 artists, Yeko was born, an album of cultural encounters between the North and the South that he describes as against the current identity climate and insurmountable borders. Journalist Nicolas Margeron met him in the middle of a rehearsal with a Malian artist Salimata Traoré, known as Tina, the daughter of the singer Maimouna Dembélé. Take a look.
Right from the first musical notes, the magic operates as the universes of the 2 artists blend together instantly. It was a great experience for me and Yohan. He taught me a lot of things. I think in Malian music too, he must have learned a lot of things through me. And it's a beautiful mix between Breton music and Malian music. The album is called Yeko, which literally means everyone's vision in Bambara.
I come from Breton music. I don't feel like I do it in Yeko, but all my friends from Brittany tell me how that sounds Breton. So in spite of myself, well, it's in me, I think, and it logically led me first to jazz, to Afro-American music, Afro-American groups, funk, and then after Mali, it was obvious. The dance, the grooves, in particular the Wassoulou, which for me is like the ancestor of funk, a little bit. And that's it. There's something I love about music. It's seeing the music move in front of me, so with dancing, it's a great experience as a musician. And it's true that in Mali, we're blessed, and especially with people like Tina or Candy. There you go. That's great.
Each guest artist thus creates a musical portrait in total freedom, with themes borrowed from sub-Saharan people's daily lives. Tina's song is called Dunia, which means the world, the earth in Bambara. In the song, I tell a bit of everything that is going on in the world. Like wickedness, war, brothers and sisters who kill each other. Why don't we love each other? There's more friendship, there's more sincerity in friendship. I express pain, in fact. Why? Why all this? Why can't we? Can't we love each other? Life is so beautiful to live better together. In the Yeko project, the traveling artist has collaborated with 5 other artists who each express their vision of the world through a musical portrait. For the song Yelema, which means change, the Burkinabe artist Candy Gira is inspired by natural disasters such as the fires in Australia or the earthquake in China. I said to myself, but while nature is trying to talk to us, why don't we start listening and maybe try to solve the problem? So that's the question. It was the inspiration that came to me like that. And I thought, Why don't we take the time and take this pleasure of listening to nature, because it speaks to us and we have to listen to her and know what is needed to help her so that she continues to support us, in fact. Each piece is thus a singular and authentic encounter, both in terms of musical creation and personality. It's the diversity, the crossbreeding. For me, that's it. It really fits in there already through our differences. So because he has a fairly calm temperament, he's someone who's very laid back, I would say. It's an earth temperament. It's stability. And I'm rather a little bit more of a water or fire. I don't know me, but in any case, something that moves. So together already these differences creates magnificent artwork like this song. And with this difference, we have managed to find each other. Of course, sometimes it's not easy since I have my own ideas and he has his ideas. So I'm pretty stubborn in the end. But we managed to find the right version anyway, because it's someone who really listens to the artist with whom he works. He's always attentive. Even if he has his proposals, which he gives afterwards, we agree, but he's someone who listens a lot, really to the sensitivity of the other.
Indeed, on this track, I was super happy. It's always a surprise what the guest will bring to it, and it gives additional inspiration, and after a while you have to stop somewhere. So it's already good, you stop.
Well, that's the thing, you have to know when to stop at some point, because each time you want to make it perfect. You know, I thought about that, I thought about us doing this, and so on. If we don't stop for a while, we'll still be there, so that's good.
It's still a good sign. It means that the piece is good.
And perhaps even better than good. With this album, a true musical mirror of these sub-Saharan countries, Yoann Le Ferrand invites you to listen to the hopeful message of a possible and harmonious dialogue between Europe and Africa.
What has become of the legacy of Fela Kuti and the Afrobeat movement today? Well, it is more vibrant than ever, and France, which hosted the musician in the 80s for a memorable concert, has never forgotten him. Our guest, Mabinyori Kayode Idowu, tells us more. Let's listen to him.
So how would you explain this link between Fela and France? How is it translated today?
Yeah, the link of between Fela and France started long before his arrival in France. The only place where Fela was really welcomed with open arms was France. And like you said before, it was at just very close to this place. It was at the Hippodrome de Pantin, it was called at that time, before 10,000 crowd, French public. Fela was presented in this hippodrome, not far from where the Philharmonie is constructed today. And Fela made a big success of this concert, and it never stopped because the French media at that time, you had Actuel magazine and all these Nova today. They were all like really impressed by this man, his struggle, his image, etc. And Manu Dibango also had a journal called Afro Music, and Fela was presented in most of these journals at that time. All this put together made what we call today the success of Fela and his music in France.
Indeed, let's talk about Afrobeat, more than music, but a message and a tool to denounce corruption and dictatorship. What's the legacy of Afrobeat in Africa today?
Yeah, like I insinuated before, for me, the corrupt Nigerian society tried to substitute Afrobeats with the S with Afrobeat or Fela. Fela's music is the music of the young man that wakes up as the sun rises in the morning and works till sundown every day for less than $50 a month. Afrobeat is the music of the poor that does not know where his next meal is coming from. These are the messages that Fela tried, and also putting them in perspective that, hey, If you are suffering, it is not just by choice. It is by religion that brainwashes you. All these messages have all been part of all of what Fela was talking about. Every Lagos government, one after the other, was using Fela's image as if they are supporting what Fela stood for. But if you look deep down, it is just they were sweeping Fela's real struggle under the carpet with these Afrobeats they were pushing. Because Afrobeats is not talking about corruption. Afrobeats is not talking about the poverty. Afrobeat is in fact glorifying corruption, which was not Fela's idea of music. So this is why they need to change that name of that music from Afrobeats to African beats.
There's the Afrobeat family that goes beyond the tradition and the style of Fela to include those who identify themselves with his struggle. Who are the successors of Fela?
For me, if I understand the sense of your question, Afrobeat took a kind of dimension after the death of Fela. We see some serious groups, trying to study Fela's musical arrangement like I tried to describe before. All of them are studying Afrobeat because they see Afrobeat as a world classic, like the jazz. Jazz, when it started, they would say, oh, it's nonsense music. Well, today, everybody can recognize jazz as a classical music. And that is what I'm talking about with Afrobeat. And for me, these are the things I'm expecting from the young generation of African musicians. Instead of all this Afrobeats, all this machine music, let them go back to their roots. There are a lot of new rhythms in Africa that really, if you work hard and not just looking for shortcuts, to make success. Afrobeats, for me, it's like shortcuts. Afrobeat is the sound, it's the groove, motivating, inspiring, because we can see it today. I mean, Nigeria is a fantastic anarchy where everybody just does what he or she wants. Nobody is accountable to nothing. And this has always been the tradition that Fela denounced in his music called ITT. You can remember songs like ITT where Fela was talking about international chief and how all these multinationals come siphon our riches and go away through the corruption, through the bribery of African leaders. They get away with all this thing, and nobody is asking questions.
Mabinori Kayode Idowu, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
That's it. Initiative Africa is over for today. You can find the interview of Mabinori Kayode Idowu as well as our shows on our website, africaonair.com. And of course, feel free to follow us on all our social media channels by liking, sharing and commenting with the hashtag Initiative Africa. And don't forget, next week, same time, same channel, I'll see you again for a new edition of Business Africa. Have a great week, and until next time, goodbye.